John Lennon was insanely jealous of the commercial and critical success that Paul McCartney enjoyed after leaving the Beatles, according to a friend of his. The band went their separate ways in 1970 after artistic differences emerged in the latter years of the 1960s and simmering tensions over their business interests came to the boil. Paul and John, who were the Beatles' primary songwriters and often wrote in tandem in the early years of the 1960s, had their difficulties as the decade wore on. Creative differences and the presence of Yoko Ono in the studio caused arguments, pushing John and Paul away from each other. The band's final recording sessions for The End, which featured on Abbey Road, took place in August 1969, and a month later, John informed his fellow members that he was leaving the band, asking for a divorce from the Beatles. Those problems worsened after the band's 1970 acrimonious split, as the former songwriting partners traded barbs in a series of solo songs aimed at one another. In response to the split, Paul filed a high court lawsuit in December 1970 to dissolve the band's contractual agreement. The court ruled in his favor in March 1971, and Paul's relationship with his former bandmates was very much strained. A war of words ensued, with Paul's 1971 song Too Many People taking aim at John, who fired back with the pointedly titled How Do You Sleep on his September 1971 album Imagine. The song begins, "So Sergeant Pepper took you by surprise. You better see right through that mother's eye. Those freaks was right when they said you was dead." The song continues, "The only thing you done was yesterday, and since you've gone, you're just another day." Yesterday was written by Paul and released by the Beatles in 1965, and Another Day was released by Paul as a solo track in February 1971. The clouds lifted, fortunately, and Paul was able to reconcile with the three other Beatles, making up with John before his death in 1980. John and Paul rekindled their friendship in the mid-1970s and jammed together at a recording session in 1974. The two almost reunited on stage 2 years later when they were offered $3,000 for the Beatles to come back together and play a set on U.S. TV show Saturday Night Live. That didn't happen, but Paul was very happy that he made up with his old friend before his death. About it, Far Out magazine reported that Paul said, "I was very glad of how we got along in those last few years, that I had some really good times with him before he was murdered. Luckily, our last meeting was very friendly. We talked about how to bake bread."